Welcome to the Work in Progress podcast, where we keep our whip in check. And now, here's Michelle, certified coach and founder of Strive Coaching Studio.
Welcome to the Work in Progress podcast. As my new norm going into this next year, I am inviting some wonderfully amazing, successful guests on the program. And today you will not be disappointed. I have somebody who has just recently had some awards for his company and awards for himself recently. And I am so thrilled to welcome Dean Sackett with Homestead Building Company. Hi, Dean. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great, Michelle. Good morning. Thank you for hosting me.
Oh, thank you for being here. I'm so glad you're here. Homestead Building Company has been around the Triangle area for a number of years.
Correct. Coming up on 20 next year.
20 years. And has evolved and seen a lot of growth through all the changes of the market and otherwise along the way. And how lucky are they that they have had you join them? How long ago did you join Homestead Building Company now?
About 20 months ago, so just under 2 years.
Yeah, wow. And the things you guys have accomplished have been amazing. But most recently, you guys won this year the Fast 50, which is our company recognized as one of the 50 fastest growing companies in the region. And what an amazing feat. And as CEO of the company, how does that feel?
Well, it feels absolutely fantastic to be recognized for cumulative success in a business. I mean, just and in the environment we've been operating in the industry we've been operating in the COVID period, just absolutely fantastic to have this recognition of the company, which is a collection of individuals, and you know, it goes out to everybody that works hard 15 hours a day in the business to make it the success that it is. So it feels absolutely fantastic.
Well, congratulations to you. I know it's taken strong leadership, a lot of probably hard decisions to be made, and a lot of hard work to get there. So
absolutely. Thank you.
Congrats to you. Now, you have a story that I just find so interesting, and I love it so much because I talk to people all the time about reinventing themselves, doing the things that they need to do to become sort of their next version of who they are. When they want to grow, they're going to new levels, and they have to kind of let go of maybe some of the old things they did to create this new life and career that they want to create for themselves.
Yep.
And you are a perfect example of that.
I'm not sure perfect. Maybe I've got an illness, but anyway, thank you.
But incredible. So many people don't. It's scary. We don't love change as humans.
Yeah.
And it's scary to do big new things and completely uproot your life. But that's what you did in order to make this transition work for you. Tell us about that.
You know, it's looking back. If I was to tell you it was by design, the moves through my career, I'd be absolutely lying. But what has been a driver, and I added up last night, I've lived 6 different countries. I've worked for a lot of different companies because I was in finance and could change industries and companies. But I've essentially started over 9 times to where the role that I was in, to the role that I went to, even if it was in the same company, was so drastically different. They were so drastically different that it really was like starting over. Wow. And as I look back and I unpack that, it really comes down to 2 things. First of all, a faith, my faith that it will work out. And second of all, it's pushing through what I noticed rather early in my career, which is I couldn't be the perfectionist I wanted to be. And so to be if you weren't going to be a perfectionist, then you had to keep challenging yourself because you had to overcome that. And it's not a fear, it's just a desire. So reinventing and starting over and raising my hand and saying, yeah, I'll go do that. And I've never lived there. I've never been there. I mean, there's multiple roles where I've taken jobs in countries I've never touched foot in. Wow. And said, I'll go do that. It was just this constant pushing myself to be better and to figure it out and be better.
Absolutely. And with that comes so many challenges and opportunities to overcome our own our own obstacles.
Correct. The obstacles that we put up in front of ourselves, not even realizing we put them up.
Yeah, absolutely. How long did it take you to overcome this perfectionistic ideal that you had?
I'm still reforming. I'm still reforming.
Well, my audience has heard me say many times I'm a recovering perfectionist. So
Okay.
we can get the t-shirt and wear that together.
There you go.
Yeah, we're a constant work in progress.
Correct. Correct. Very, straight into the topic of the name of the podcast. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So over that time, obviously this is such a great story that you've had. What brought you to making this decision? Why home building? What's this about?
Yeah, so it's again about that challenge, and
Okay.
it's about having the right connection. So and trusting before you've even crossed the line and said yes, that the read that I have of the individuals that I'm going to work with is the right read, because at the end of the day, I'm honestly going to spend more time with them than I've spent with my own family. So I need to have confidence in how those relationships are then, and how they should evolve going forward. So I was at an inflection point again in my career, not the first time I'd been there, with the 26 years that I stack up and I add together and say, yeah, that's my professional career to this point. And just read the situation, had a frank discussion and said, yeah, let me come and see, you're open in what's been a very successful business to this point of bringing somebody that's definitely an outsider in. And let me come in and see, again, how I can challenge myself to make the impacts that I've seen myself make through the years. And so, again, taking that risk, being willing to own up to the challenge, and then being excited by the challenge. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a great story. Well, and such a great opportunity as a leader, bringing something from the outside to a company that has been very successful in the Triangle, doing things the way they've done it. What is the reason for change and growth now for Homestead? What are the goals for Homestead now?
So the goals are really in my wheelhouse, and the overarching goal is to have satisfied customers.
Mm-hmm.
We need to, we're a business, we're not a charity, so we need to make decent money. We have to be profitable. We need to be playing to a strategic plan, which is much more concrete today than it was before I arrived. But at the end of the day, we don't succeed in the culture that we're trying to push through the organization, push through our trade partners, and deliver for our customers is really the customer experience. And how do we do that? And how do we articulate that? And how do we consistently deliver that? That's really the biggest change that's come into the business since I got here. And I'm not taking credit for it by me saying by the time I got here, it just gave my leadership style and the challenging questions that I've brought to the discussion just lends itself to us focusing on that, which we really have.
That's amazing. And how has that shifted the culture within the company itself and the team?
It's really, if you're going to put the customer first, it really means that you have to put the individuals in the company second, or second tier. And what the struggle we continue to go through, and what we're working through, is collaboration. How do we work better as a collaborative group of individuals, meaning Homestead Building Company, that then layers out into those trade partners, and how do we be more collaborative with them in delivering that ultimate customer success? And so that's been the biggest obstacle, biggest hurdle, biggest mind shift that's had to take place. And some people, some of the Homestead organization, they've stepped into that, and they've gotten on board, and they've understood it, and they've done that through self-reflection and understanding that the positive results and the positive consequences of being more collaborative. Others haven't, and they've either self-selected, is the phrase we use. They've self-selected and said, Homestead's not the place for me. And that's then given us the opportunity to bring in people that we can bring in new team members that understand this is who we are, and where we're going, and they're starting later in the transition, so it's easier for them to come on board and make the right decision for them on the front side.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody gets to make their own decision, and you're exactly right. Self-selection, that's a great term.
Yeah.
Free will. You have this opportunity. It's here. You get to choose how you and who you want to be in it. And I know you and I have talked before, turnover's not a bad thing. It usually makes opportunities for other people, and it allows for growth. And when we have turnover, it's usually because we are changing and evolving.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so of all your time and all your career, tell us what are some of your biggest accomplishments and your biggest successes?
Yeah.
And then you have to tell me the secrets to why. But
well, I can tell you the secret. The accomplishments, they just sort of, and I don't linger on them. Again, if I get up every day thinking, how can I be better as dean, the best dean, those accomplishments, yeah, they happen and I'm proud of them, but I don't sit and ponder on them. And really, to answer the question the best I'm going to be able to, Michelle, because of my personality, is just to go back to all of those risks that I've taken, where, if you're sitting and having a coffee with me and we're having this discussion, or we're having a glass of wine, it's really back to, I was with the company for 12 months in a regional role where it was all of Asia, and I was in a regional role, a senior finance role. I get back from a trip, I touch base with my local boss. I have two bosses, one in Asia and one in England. And the one in Asia sits me down, our paths actually cross. I'm there collecting mail. I literally went to the office from the airport to collect mail after being on the road all week. And he sits me down and he goes, "Hey, you want to go to Japan?" And I go, "I want to go to Japan." And he goes, "Yeah, I want you to go there and be the CFO there, reporting to me and reporting to the country's CEO." And I looked at him and said, "I've never left the airport in Japan. I've touched ground in Japan probably 25 times, flying from here back to the US, but I've never left the airport." And he goes, "You're my guy. You can go do this." And literally I said yes.
Yeah.
Before I talked to my wife, before I'd done anything. And he looked at me and he leaned across the table and he said, "Don't you think you need to talk to Christine?" And I go, "No, it's okay." And so it's just those experiences of pushing through.
Yeah. Most people would have tremendous amounts of fear and resistance.
Fear, resistance, and doubt. And that's not to say I'm any better than anybody else. That's not what I'm saying. It's just pushing through that, and having a quiet, because, and that's probably been the biggest part of me. And we were talking about that earlier. Is it's a quiet. It's not going in like a bull in the china shop and saying, "Corporate sent me," or "I'm American," or whatever, and I'm here. It's going in quietly and learning from the organization, and then improving upon what you bring in from those other aspects in your personality and your skill set and your life experience to make it a better experience for everybody. And that's been the critical success factor.
And I've noticed you and I met pretty early on in your start with Homestead, and I've always noticed that about your personality. You sit back, you take it in, you listen, and then you kind of assess from there and contribute from there. So it sounds like that's kind of your entire way of operating.
I think so. I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's not new. So if I went all the way back to being 28 and being an expat in China, it started then. Then. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's working for you.
Correct.
It's working well. Yeah. And I always say, if you're not feeling fearful about what you're doing, then you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough.
Correct. Agreed. Absolutely.
The only way we get out of our comfort zone is to get uncomfortable. True. Yeah. And fear comes with that. Well, so tell me, have you had any particular role models along the way, or anyone you've particularly admired in your career?
I definitely fall into that notion of you don't quit companies, you quit bosses. And so I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate throughout my career, not in every instance, that would be overstepping, but and 80% of through 80% of the places I've worked and the people I've reported to have very strong bosses. Nobody's perfect. And if you expect them to be, then you're going to be disappointed. So nobody's perfect, but I've had bosses that first and foremost have challenged me.
Yeah.
I've had bosses that have, in challenging me, that have been respectful, that if they're challenging me, I'm going to make mistakes. And so to let me make those mistakes and to support me on the other side of them. And so I can actually go all the way back to that first assignment in China and even earlier than that. But that's really the marker for me where I pushed in and did something that I had had on my heart since I was 18 to work overseas. And those bosses from that point forward, 80% of them have fit that mold.
Yeah.
And have fit that mold. But the one that gets the littlest recognition, probably because it was a short time, but he said one thing to me that really resonated, is that as I'm trying to push myself and grow every day, he said, you can never be the same boss as somebody else. And phrased a different way, as he said, take the best from what you're seeing in me, but don't try to be me, because you're going to fail. So I apply that every day.
That is a really good takeaway. Learn what you can, but then make it your own.
Make it your own, correct. If you try to be me, it's not going to work. It's going to be unauthentic, it's just not, and people are going to see through it.
Yeah, great advice. So I have found along the way, and I say quite often that for those leaders out there who are afraid to challenge their people for fear that they may get scared or quit or not like them or whatever the case may be, I always tell them to think about who their favorite bosses were and how and why they were. And I love that you said the ones who've challenged me because they've believed you could do it.
Correct.
You can. You're my guy. You're going to Japan.
Correct.
How has that translated into your leadership style then today?
So I think it really is today and for the last 15 to 20 years, when I've been leading teams of whether it's been 10 people or 1,000 people, it's putting guardrails for them, but then challenging them. And challenging them really, challenging them as individuals and in the roles that they have, but collectively challenging them to just say, we can do better. Yeah. And what that better is, I don't have all the answers, guys. The answer's not going to come off my tongue and out of my lips. It's going to come collectively from us. But as long as we're challenging one another in a respectful and a collaborative way, we're going to get better.
Yeah.
So it's but always starting with those guardrails, because if you don't have the guardrails, human nature says they're not going to have the confidence to step out. And so you've got to give them guardrails to give them that confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can do better is an invitation for all of us to participate in that solution. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. So what would you say has been the most significant aspect of growth that you've had to overcome then? What has been the biggest challenge for you?
The biggest challenge to growth is back to that perfectionist. It really is, just taking it easy on myself.
Take it easy on yourself.
Take it easy and understand that I made mistakes already this morning. I'm going to make a bunch more before I go to bed. Yeah. And there's really nothing I can do to stop that. It's just to stay focused on what do I learn from those as much as possible, and where are those that just you're not intended to learn from. Just let them roll off your back and move forward, and just let it be. And that has been the challenge. And I don't mean to over talk into it, but as long as I can keep that perspective, then I sleep well. And if I sleep well, I'm more productive when I'm awake, and I'm able to exercise, which I need. And it makes better use of the time that I am allotted each day to use it as purposefully as possible.
Yeah, such good advice. And I don't think you can overstate it, because I think I talk to clients almost every single day who are having those struggles and don't know how to get past it, mostly because they like being a perfectionist.
Yeah, true. True.
And I've been there. I liked it too.
Yeah.
So, and I'm guessing you have as well. So that first recognition to say this really doesn't serve me, first of all. If I
Yeah,
take it easy
correct.
on myself, I can be so much more productive.
Much more productive. Correct.
Totally.
And just
Totally.
content in that productivity.
Yes. Yes.
I have the
Absolutely.
silver hair because of genetics. It's not all stress.
I believe you. So, what about kind of what would you say is been your biggest? We'll call it a failure, so everybody knows what we're talking about. But learning opportunity. What?
So I think it really, that's again, as I've expressed in the conversation, I don't really view the world that way.
Yeah.
And so I have to. I mean, I'm human, so I do fail, and I see failures, and I'm not saying that I don't fail, but with enough time, I bring myself back around to, well, what did I really learn from that? Once I strip away the emotional components of it, what did I learn from that? I think that a couple of steps in my career that didn't go the way I thought they would go, I would chalk those up to answering this question. And what I learned from those is I needed to listen better. I had people that were speaking into the conversation, and in that instance, Dean in the room listening to what's going on was listening but wasn't really listening.
Okay.
And so that's the takeaway. It was very situational. It was very much those individuals having a view across the top that I was losing because of the decisions I was trying to make for me personally. And they had a couple of throw off lines that I should have stopped them in their tracks and said, "Can you unpack that for me?" And I didn't.
Yeah.
And that I chalked. So those, again, I've packaged it all together. What did I learn through that? It took me time, it took me perspective, and it took me a lot of subconscious processing to get to that. But those two instances where I had failures like that I won't do again. So and it's just pushing into those conversations.
Listening is key to successful communication.
Correct.
There's no question about that.
Correct.
I talk about that a lot with all teams and leaders for sure. It is a deal breaker many times.
It is.
Now, when we have failures, it's not to say, well, we'll call them learning opportunities, but when those things happen, I think what you're saying, just to clarify for everybody, it's not that it doesn't feel like crap when it happens.
Absolutely.
It does.
It does. Very much so.
It's not like we just take out our rainbow wand and make it and go, oh, we learned so much from this, right?
Correct. Absolutely
only.
Not. There are months of consequences in there that I've just gleaned over. So correct.
Yeah, totally. And on the other side of it is, and when we're willing to ask those hard questions is when we can come up with solutions and opportunities for growth.
Correct.
So
correct.
Yeah, I love it. I always remind everybody, don't think you're not supposed to feel bad when something goes wrong. It's okay.
You've let yourself down. You've let your family down. You've let your colleague. The list is long.
The world has come crashing down.
Absolutely.
Oh, so so it sounds like in any of those cases, you have seen them as the gift, and where
I've gotten to a point. Yes, sorry to interrupt. I've gotten to a point where I do reflect back on them as a gift that collectively and foundationally has put me where I am today.
Yeah.
Now, would I want to go back and repeat some of those episodes? No, I would not.
You've learned it already.
And I really, let's just leave it there in the ticked it's done box. Yeah. But still they've informed and they're reflected in who I am as a leader today. So yeah. I'm thankful for them. I just don't want to repeat them.
Yeah, absolutely. So how would you describe yourself today in terms of how are you a work in progress today? What's your new opportunity for growth right now that you recognize?
So my new opportunity for growth is really and the title says it, but the dean needs to reflect it, is I've through really for 15 years, I was a very strong number two in a business. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I was one of the puppet masters, very much so. And I don't deny that. And that started that started even earlier than that, but I was at a seat at the executive table from 2005 forward. And so, but a very strong, there was always a CEO that I was beside or slightly behind, and had the confidence that there was somebody checking what I was bringing to the table.
Yeah.
Now that's not the case. And so I'm that guy. So it's just, that's what I'm stepping into and stepping through and pushing myself on a daily basis.
Yeah. And so who do you need to become in order to live into that?
It's just, who do I need to become? I just need to carry forward that confidence.
Yeah.
That the confidence, but those critical levers as well, the listening, the making sure that failure is going to happen, and it's going to happen, and how am I going to overcome that, and recognizing that failure is more on a day in and day out deal basis versus the longer term perspective that I've been talking to this point. So it's just, it's more of the same, but it's probably more intense in some respects.
Well, everything you've already done, having the faith, having the trust in yourself, that's what we have to keep using and finding. Correct. To carry us through. And it sounds like that's what you'll continue to do. What's ahead for Homestead in terms of the company? What can we expect to see?
Yeah, what can you expect to see? Now I'd be letting the secrets out of the bag.
Ooh.
I think we've back to the Fast 50. We've been, we had to submit information to third parties to be recognized there. So that's very validating. We're just going to continue more of the same as far as, but in a more focused way. And just being, we're already, for example, we've just come through the Parade of Homes cycle, which is big here in the Raleigh market.
You guys just won a bronze for your.
Thank you. That's not why I mentioned it, but thank you for the recognition. We've already determined where we're building, what we're building, who's building it. And we've already got the designers working on it for next year's Parade of Homes.
Nice. Amazing.
Which again is what do we need to keep doing? We need to be more strategic. We've got long build cycles. Our build cycles have not gotten shorter since I've gotten here, no matter how much we've tried. So we've got to press into those and just recognize the consequences of those. And we just have to keep looking out as strategically as possible. And then bringing the right team members into the team. It's critical to our success because we can't do it all.
Oh, absolutely. Team is the people you have around you are critical to your success, and especially for this planning. If you're being strategic, you want them to be on board with all of that.
Absolutely. And I'm very excited. We've been through some transition, as we were talking about earlier. We announced last week how we're going to be tackling the design aspects for our customers. So that's gone live, and that's a big deal for us, and not on our website yet. I was looking at that last night. Got to get it up on the website.
Okay.
And then from a sales and marketing perspective, we're going to announce something quite big next week. So we've got lots of levers that we keep pulling and that are taking energy out of us, but are going to put us in a better place. So very excited, very, very excited about all that.
And all of this inside of 20 months,
Inside of 20 months.
It's really incredible how much you guys have accomplished in the changes, the positive changes and the positive momentum that you've put into place for the long-term planning and strategy and success of Homestead, which is really exciting, really exciting.
Agreed.
What would be your message to the other leaders out there who would love some advice from somebody who's seen the success that you've created? What would you tell them?
So I mentioned customer focused and where the business is going as a customer focused. That's actually not new to me. I had 1996, my first role out of graduate school. I had a manager, because I was a finance analyst. I had a manager share with me that he viewed everybody as his customer. Everybody. He said, "You're my customer. You report to me, but you're my customer. My boss is my customer. My customers are my customers." And I've carried that through as a way of viewing the world. So that's what I put out there. Part of that's really the bow that ties me as Dean Sackett together, is everybody's a customer. And when you stay focused on that, you find the time that's necessary. You find the conversations that are necessary. You press into those hard things that are necessary. because whoever you're pressing into in that moment, even though it's hard, if you view them as a customer and how do you win that customer,
Yeah.
it's just going to bring the success.
I love that. I feel like I'm going to tell everybody I did not pay Dean to say this in advance.
She did not pay Dean to say that. Well, I'll put it out there. I'm pretty sure Dean's not getting paid. So
Dean's not getting paid. I might take him coffee or something. Who knows?
There you go.
One of the courses I have to turn around what you just said is everybody's in sales. Everybody's a salesperson. No matter what your position is in the company, you're in sales. And if you see yourself that way, it changes how you react and how you treat and how you interact with everyone.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. And the phrase, and I don't know, this should resonate, is it's really a servant leadership style.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when somebody pushes me, that's how I play it back to them in an interview, on my resume, things like that. That's how I package it down even further, but that's it. I've just unpacked it for you.
I love it. I love it. Any books that you've read recently or would recommend for the
I wish I was a better reader. I really, really do.
You've been busy. You have been busy.
I have been busy. I read the Wall Street Journal. And I've actually been making more time for something that I should have years ago, which is the Bible. So that's where I've been pressing into.
Wonderful. That is wonderful. And so, Dean, what do you do for fun? Speaking of all that.
What do I do for fun?
When you have time.
Life is busy. There's never enough time. So I still have kids that I'm supporting. And I say that in a very positive way. It just means they're that close. So the oldest is going to get married in January. He sprung that on us, which is all positive. That's all good. But then I have a 21-year-old and an 18-year-old. So I just try to make time for them. I try to make time for them. And usually I carve out that time by going to the beach. I don't mind the mountains. I like the mountains and I love beautiful mountains and I like going to mountains, but I prefer the beach as the place to unplug and just, I don't like taking expensive devices out where there's sand. So there's a natural reinforcement that takes place for me to unplug and focus on the people that I'm hanging out with. So that's what it is. It's about the experiences and having those, what you hear all over the place now in a post-COVID world or a soon-to-be post-COVID world, but it's really just having experiences with the people that matter to me.
Yeah, and being able to stay present when you're there.
Exactly.
It sounds like you make such a conscious effort of that. So that is really great advice.
So
yeah, this is such great advice. I really appreciate this. Dean, would you share is there anything else you want to share with us about the company or where you're going?
No, just look us up. Just look us up and let us know how we can do better. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. As I said, I've got new design coming in to influence the business. And we want to be building the best dream home that we can for individuals. And we're not going to get to that in a vacuum. So feedback is appreciated.
Yeah, amazing. And yes, so you guys are on Instagram, Homestead Built. You can find Homestead there. Your website is homesteadbuilt.com. Correct.
And we're on Facebook and on LinkedIn now as well, so people can find us there.
Fantastic. Well, we'll be watching. It sounds like there's a lot of exciting new things coming out and a lot to pay attention to. And congratulations again. We're going to keep watching the success. I can't wait to see what happens with you guys.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And we'll be watching your success as well, because you're obviously moving forward each step. So we'll be watching you as well.
Thanks, Dean. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast and social media outlets to keep your whip in check.